Welcome back. We are live, pal. Double G here with my co-host, one of the first voices I heard on the Dusty Rhodes biography, the A&E biography, Andrew Zarian. I knew I recognized that voice at the beginning of that show.
Dude, I was shocked. And it was it was 3 seconds, right? At most. It was Denise, it was me, and then it was Dave in that opening couple seconds of the show. And A&E PR emailed it to me, right? I got this email. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe they want me to see the screener, obviously.
Yeah.
I was at work. I would have never clicked on it. I would have just waited, and I would have watched it when it came out. And I clicked on it. I'm like, I think that's me. I'm like, oh, that's Denise. And I think that's me. Wait a minute, is that Dave? And I listened back. I was like, oh, man. And that probably was from January of 2021. So very cool to see it. I haven't watched the entire thing. I'm going to watch it tonight because my wife has discovered how much she likes Dusty Rhodes. So all she knows Dusty is the promos that I put on, right?
Yeah.
You touch the brim of my hat, and he tells Baby Doll, I'm going to slap them lips upside of your face. And then, the Hard Times promo, the sausage, what is it? The Sausage Maker promo. She's only seen those. And then the hokey WWF ones where he was like, it was like a commercial where he's like a gas station attendant and he's a plumber. That's all she knows him from, and absolutely loves this guy. So when I told her that the documentary is happening, she's like, oh, we got to watch it. So we're probably watching that tonight. Maybe my tub. Maybe I'm going to tub it. Listen here, Baby Doll.
It is really good, actually. I was a little worried, but
that's what I heard.
I knew that Cody had input, and he said that this was one of the reasons why he came to WWE. But the one who steals this whole thing, and I haven't even got to the biggest parts of it for him, is Dustin. Man,
that's
Dustin,
what I heard. Yeah,
you just feel for this dude watching this thing, and the Cody's mom, who's not Dustin's mom, explains the scenario about Dustin just wanted to be around his dad, and his dad was all over the world, and Dustin wants to go into wrestling, and his dad doesn't want him to because his dad knows what he lost with Dustin while being in wrestling. So it was this really interesting story. Yeah, but I'm only halfway through, so I can't wait to watch the rest of it as well. But I just thought that was cool. Somebody, an editor of some sort, is a fan of the podcast on this channel. So shout out to you. Shout out to you, whoever that was, Denise, Andrew.
Do you know who it is?
Big Dave. I don't know who it is. You know what? Told me.
I would love him or her to reach out to me privately. I won't ever tell who. I won't say who it is, but I would very much appreciate it because I would like to thank you for that because that's a cool thing for me. That's a very cool thing for me for being a kid that loves wrestling. I grew up watching it. I'm 30. I'm going to be 39 now. And, in a weird way, this is kind of the thing that I do, which I very much enjoy. Last week we were talking about. Listen, I'm going to say something, okay? I may get in trouble, okay?
Uh-oh.
Garrett,
no.
I may get in trouble. But if you guys were a fly on the wall for the conversation I had with Garrett 5 minutes before the show, okay? I'm just going to say some really fascinating things are going down in the works in the world of professional wrestling. And I'm going to, before the forums and Twitter yells and says, well, why do you say this and not tell us the news? Because I can. Because I want to. Because I'm a big fat yenta that can't hold things in sometimes, all right? But the other thing is, I kind of want to work people through the process of sometimes you can't say anything because it's going to expose the person. And that person could get fired or plans can change. We saw that with the TV14 stuff that when I reported it. But I mean, based on what I told you, if this is happening, or if it does happen, or if it doesn't happen, and I'm not saying it's CM Punk. I didn't mention CM Punk at all in this conversation. Interesting, right?
It is fascinating for what we do, for sure. It will keep this wheel churning if any of this stuff comes to fruition. But I think the most intriguing piece of this is, and it's probably something that if we were able to bring Sean back on this show, I've talked to Big Dave about this before, but just the idea of where information comes from, who
Yeah.
gives you information, what do you decide to then try and get another source to tell you the same information so you can actually report it, and what don't you report because you don't want to lose anybody's confidence in you for, future stories. Like, that whole thing is
You
fascinating to
also don't
me.
want to harm people. You also don't want to
Right.
harm people, right?
Right.
And I mean, if you want, I know that wasn't a plan, but I could kind of go into it a little bit. I kind of have these like weird rules that I follow with reporting stuff. Like the BS meter goes off sometimes, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
I don't have like a lot of I know a lot of the talent, but I don't get news from the talent. I don't, like, I don't. Last week we were talking like Sean and Dave, like they're great at that stuff. Like
Yep.
my conversations happen over, a glass of wine or like an event I bump into that's with somebody, that I see and we start talking. Excuse me? That is not true. That is very
I think
not true.
he said Pawn Stars.
Pawn Stars. Yeah, what's Les? That guy from Pawn Stars. He tells me everything. I sometimes you want to, when the COVID stuff was happening, a lot of the stuff, like, I don't feel comfortable talking about people's health. Like when
Yeah.
the Bray Wyatt stuff was happening, like it's none of my business. Anything mental health, anything that is severe, anything that is private, I'll never ever go into. And the other thing, like if I can't back it up with a third, like a secondary source that is not connected in any way to that person, then I won't run it. Like it's you have to be careful here, but it's way harder when this is your job. Like for Dave and for Sean, when it's your job to get information like this and report details, like that stuff I stay away from. I'll put in the little blurb and let them do the work because they're way better.
For you though, you don't have a Patreon. You don't have a Substack. Actually, you guys do have a Patreon. You have a Mattman
We
Patreon.
do, yeah, for
but
Mattman. But for me, you know what it is? That whatever money comes in goes to Rich, goes to Matt, our producer, goes to John. It's not for me because I don't. It's not something that I can make a living off of like that. So it's disposable.
But
in that
there's no incentive necessarily for you to turn that Patreon into like the breaking news Patreon. It is just an extension of Mattman and the personalities and you get more Andrew and Rich. But
I mean, I could if I, someone
you
wants
could
to run it for me, maybe I can.
But the other thing is that when you do have information, it is for this show. It is for Mattman. It is for F4W, to run with something. And so the virality of that is kind of what you get out of it. Oh, now, I saw someone who replied to us on Twitter, and they called you Scoops Man. And it's like, it's a little bit of like influence and reputation and such for you. And like you said, the pressure to do it as a day in and day out job is not
Very
there.
difficult.
Because you choose to do it in this way, which is probably the best way, and the best way for your mental health too.
Yeah, like yesterday, right? Great example yesterday. By the way, I do like the scoop stuff. It's fun. It's it is what it is. It's not I do this because I generally love this, and I say that every week, it seems like. Maybe I'm trying to convince myself not to make this into a living and keep my day job. No, listen, I love my day job. I love what I do. I love the people I meet. I'm in like 10 different businesses. I got the hair stuff. I got this stuff. I got, my consulting business. I got the club aspect, the hospitality aspect. Last night, I'll tell you exactly a process of this. So you guys kind of see the inner workings. Sean put out a report, right? That there were some issues with a rewrite of Raw. Very quickly, I got a phone call from somebody, and they're like, hey, listen, I'm going to let you know, half the guys are not here. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, there were travel issues. They're not here. We're hoping that they can make it for the end of the show. I put it out there. Very easy. That I'm not writing a blog post. I don't have to do a Fightful Select or put it behind a paywall. That's for the guys. Like, I don't think people realize how difficult that job is.
Yeah.
I don't think any, like 99% of people don't realize how, it's kind of nerve-wracking too, right? Because you put out something, you better be right because your livelihood depends on it.
Yeah, and
Very
there's
interesting.
the pressure is crazy to not be wrong, right?
Yeah.
Because the social media aspect of this, they will run forever and ever and ever. And some people will still make stuff up. Like that still happens on
It's fun,
social
man.
media. But
Yeah.
you've had to own something before on Twitter. And it's not the most fun thing in the world to do. But yeah, there's a high pressure for that stuff to
Yeah.
be the correct information. All right.
That's why I'm not
We
saying this exact thing that I told Garrett.
at least, yeah, at least until
At least for now.
until further things come out, and then maybe you can. But let's move on, because speaking of major announcements and important announcements, is last Wednesday, Tony Khan validated pretty much what people had thought, which is his announcement was going to be a show in London. Now, the venue, I think, was a major surprise to a lot of people. I want to thank you because we were able to get together last week. You were the debut guest on my new podcast on the Fight Game Media Network called Extra, Fight Game Podcast Extra. And so we were able to kind of talk a little bit about this, but I wanted to extend that conversation because now we've had a few more days to think about it. Were you really surprised that Wembley Stadium was the choice of venue?
I was told Wembley Stadium, and I thought it was, the way it was said to me, I thought it was very unrealistic, considering what I didn't know. I didn't know the date at the time, and then it started tracking like, well, the date's interesting because it's the week before the All Out show. I didn't know it was going to be called All In. We still don't have a lot of the information, and I was under the impression they would probably run the arena in Wembley.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? I don't know if it's OVO or OVO. I thought, okay, you know what? That's not bad. It's like a 14,000 person building. They'll sell that out within seconds, and they'll put a great show for the UK crowd. But we've heard people say that Tony tends to run small venues, and he's made mistakes running first time markets, running the wrong venues. I mean, this is going to the whole different side of this. He's running a gigantic stadium. The expectation's not 90,000, but can they do 65? I think it really has to do, in my opinion, and I'm not. This is not a scoop. Whether or not they have Punk. That's really what this is going to come down to, because I don't listen. No knock at anybody, right? I'm not knocking the product. I absolutely, if you were going to say that I'm a little bit what content I like AEW more than WWE, especially current, with the wrestling. But I feel like I have to say that every week because I get called, people are like, oh, you're on the WWE payroll. I'm like, I don't even know how you could come up with that, because I tend to talk about AEW 90% of the time.
Brother, if we were on the WWE payroll,
we'd have a charcuterie board, apparently. That's what they send.
Oh my God. Like imagine if, okay, when people say that, it's so stupid. Imagine if WWE paid us to do this show for this website. Wouldn't we get guests? Wouldn't like Drew McIntyre be on this show with us to discuss, Wembley Stadium? Like that's so funny to me. But I know what they're saying. Oh, you're getting paid under the table. They want you to promote X, Y, and Z. I wish, man. I wish they did.
Listen, man, maybe one day. You never know. I would say, well, we saw what happened to Live Audio Wrestling, right? When Anthem bought the Fight Network.
Yeah.
Right? And then they had to turn the thing into a TNA show, one of the greatest pro wrestling radio programs of all time, Live Audio Wrestling. It ended up becoming a TNA show, so fascinating. I would say, if you don't, Punk is going to be a factor here. Okay? I'm telling you, and it depends on what that factor is. Can AEW do 45,000 people without CM Punk? Absolutely. 100%.
I'm going to give you
and a good program. Absolutely.
I'm going to give you a number. I'm going to give you an over-under number like I did Big Dave. By the way, you mentioned Live Audio Wrestling. I'm going to talk to John Pollock coming up here this week.
One of the best, man. He is You know what? Credit to John Pollock. We always talk about Sean and Dave. John Pollock's one of the other good ones.
Yeah, we're gonna have
For
a.
sure.
I want to pick his brain about the whole content creation aspect of what he's doing, and I think post wrestling is fascinating. Those guys pivoted very well. Okay, so here's a number. This is the number I gave Big Dave on Wrestling Observer Radio on Friday, and maybe my over under was a little high. Let's drop it to 50,000 tickets sold for Wembley Stadium. But
Dave went
would
the
you
over
go
on
over
55, right?
Dave bet the over on 55, but
But on Twitter he backtracked.
I think it was a joke maybe that
Maybe.
he was backtracking, but I don't know. I never asked him about it. But what would you if I gave you 50? Are you over under?
With the current roster?
Everything that we know right now, because of course, they could debut some, actually they wouldn't debut anybody because you'd have to at least.
I would say they could do the over. It depends on a couple things, right? It depends on the climate. It depends on ticket prices. We saw the leak of ticket prices. They're going from $30 to $500, which is £5. So I don't know how that compares because I don't know the market with ticket sales in the UK. But overseas, that comes over, it tends to do well. WWE tends to do great business over there. They did great in Cardiff, not in London.
But
they went to Wales and did that.
Those tickets were much more expensive, I believe.
Very expensive.
WWE tickets,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it's probably smart to come in under. Do you want to fill up that
they
stadium?
did New York. They did 20,000 in New York in a building that has never held any kind of event like this. So, could you do 50 in a really hot market? Yeah, I think I would go the over. I would guess the over on that.
I think right out of the gate, they're probably selling between 20 and 25. And then everything is just about the build to that show and the possible matches you can see. Big Dave floated out Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, with Will beating Kenny for Kenny's New Japan title. If you do that match and you're sitting 40-ish, could that get it over 50? It might be able to do so. I think that's a hot match. Yeah.
Here's one for you. Okay.
Go for it.
What if you did I'm going to throw out two scenarios and you tell me. And actually, this is great. We're live, right? The chat room could participate in this.
We're live, pal.
We're live, pal. Which is not what he said.
No.
That's the best part of this. He said
you're live, pal.
If it's a trios match, Punk and FTR versus Aussie Open, is the number 60,000? Are you going to 60,000 over or under? I'm going to throw another scenario right
Punk
after that.
and FTR against Aussie Open and Ospreay? Is that your match?
Well, Ospreay, yeah, and Ospreay.
I don't think that would do as well as Kenny and Will together.
Okay. How about if it's the Elite versus FTR and Punk? That's definitely doing over 65.
I think that is a giant match.
That's a huge match. I mean, you're talking maybe 70. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. It's very realistic that will never happen. Very realistic.
If you tell me, if I put it back at what I told Dave, 55, and you tell me FTR and Punk against the Elite, I think I would take the over, because when I asked Dave, I was kind of sitting, 45, 50 with the current climate as it is. But if we do get, something like that, that could definitely push it over 55.
Yeah,
I still think I think Omega and Ospreay could push it over 55 as well.
You know what? Very possible. That's a very big reality. I think I will say this is going to be a very interesting summer for AEW. Based on that Saturday show that's buzzing right now, whatever Collision or whatever they're going to call it, depending on what they do with that product, we already know it's their dates set, right? We know that there's some Saturday dates set for that. I between that, maybe All Out being at the United Center, new contract year, they're doing a stadium, they're coming back to Grand Slam right after that. They're gonna have show after show after show the next couple months.
Yeah, and this is what I asked Dave about, because I am of the opinion that Tony doesn't set up all of these big shows for a product that he does not believe will be hot by the time he has them.
Yeah.
And he's a promoter, right? So he's promoting this stuff, but also he's the booker. So he's booking the stuff to line up to these shows. And so we have Double or Nothing in May. Then we have Forbidden Door. Then we have All In and All Out, though we haven't heard about exactly when All Out is. So that's 4 opportunities. Plus, you're talking about this Grand Slam show. They need main events. And I imagine, you know, if we're putting the tea leaves together, he has to believe that he's going to have at least the opportunity to bring back CM Punk. And he has to believe that this elite storyline versus the BCC, however that ends, there's going to be bigger and better things for them as well, because those are major acts that you have to have white hot for all of these shows to be successful and for the pro wrestling landscape, you know, to feel like these are major shows. So I find it fascinating. I think he's betting big on his ideas. I think he's betting big on his company. That's why when All Out got announced at Wembley, I was like, go ahead with your bad self, Tony Khan, because you are believing that you have something great coming up. And hey, man, that's the entire idea of All In and AEW and the Bucks and Kenny and Cody. All they did was just bet on themselves, right? So that's a continuation of the origin story of this company, and I can't wait to see it all play out.
Yeah, and listen, this could maybe, if this is a very successful show, if All In is very successful, you have an opportunity to turn this into a WrestleMania every year. Maybe you're not going to do a 90-person stadium every year, but you know what? You could run a lot of buildings in the States that you could fill up 45, 50,000 people and make this your WrestleMania. Not even, you could do 35,000, you could do 28,000. You know, these are all great numbers. These are fantastic numbers. You know how hard it is to drag people to go to a show? Look at Raw, right? Raw and SmackDown are doing 10,000 people a show consistently now. From a year ago, it was, 6,000, 7,000. They're in a hot market. Remember when they came back? Oh, my gosh, they can't even draw 7,000 people at the Garden. And boy, did that turn around within the last year. Some of it is optics, like I say all the time. The other stuff is that they're actually doing some interesting things for the viewers. But for AEW in this infancy period, 3 years out, 4 years out, they're gonna do something. They're gonna do something. I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I'm telling you, Tony's swinging here, and he's a great analyst. He's great at forecasting. He knows sports business tremendously. I wouldn't say that this is just a goofy promoter trying to muster up some grand idea that's not going to happen. I think he knows what he could do in that building. I think it's been assessed. Whether or not that number is 45 or 50 or 60, they're all fantastic numbers. 35, I would say, is a success.
Yeah.
Forget about the internet chatter if someone's going to take a picture of, the tarped off area and be like, oh, look at what they're running here. You want to compare it. Last year, WWE was going to run Money in the Bank in a giant building, and what happened? They pulled back because they only sold 20,000 tickets. Yep. So you never know, but I'm assuming Tony knows something.
He knows that market, right? He knows that market from a live events and sports mentality. So I think, again, I find the big bet, I find that stuff so intriguing, and wish the best for them as they do these giant shows. It's going to be fun for us. There's going to be lots of stuff to talk about for us. By the way, did you see the number for Raw?
No.
0.59 and 1.818 million viewers.
So it dropped, but not terrible. What is that, like
Still,
a 20-point
on
drop?
the higher end of the 18 to 49 from the road to WrestleMania. And yeah, I think in February, and this is probably after Royal Rumble, they did a higher number. But other than that, it's one of the higher 18 to 49s they've done.
That SmackDown number was fantastic, though. On Friday,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's a
that
crazy
demo
number.
Was monstrous. What it was? I'm trying to pull it up. 0.69, 18 to 49. What did Dave say? Dave was talking about the 18 to 34. What was that? That was something astronomical, right?
Yeah, it was he said he hadn't seen a wrestling number that high. It was like 0.5 something. He hadn't seen a wrestling number that high in forever.
And AEW, 500,000 for Rampage and 415 for Battle of the Belts.
You got to imagine
0.17 or 0.14.
Some of that was whatever the competition was. Didn't usually have the normal things going against it, so possible that's what it was. All right, let's talk about a little bit about the Raw show, because you mentioned the talent missing the show, and it was a travel issue, correct?
That's what I was told. They said it was a travel problem. Like, I think Sammy and Riddle got in like the last half of the show. They got in for like the last hour. So, I mean, very chaotic for them, but it wasn't a bad show.
I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad show.
So, where are you? We are 1 week, a week and a half removed from WrestleMania. We all wanted Cody to win that match just to sort of signify that we have a top babyface star. Obviously, he didn't win. Where are you after the second Raw here? Because I'm of the opinion that may have been his best promo I've ever seen from him. He's talking about Brock, and he's putting over Brock, and at the same time saying that he's not going to be prey and he's going to be the predator. I thought that whole thing was fantastic. Some of my issues with Cody's promo sometimes is that he kind of has his own language, like his own weird Cody speak. And that felt, not to say that it was the most common man promo ever, but that's kind of a promo that I felt not really the same verbiage that his dad would use, but I got the same feeling of a good Dusty promo where you're just like, man, I want to see Cody beat the hell out of Brock Lesnar. Like, that's what I felt after that promo was over.
I'm waiting for him to work in Commode Lid in a promo. That's what I'm waiting for. No, I thought it was a really good I'm intrigued by the Brock Lesnar and Cody match. Very much so, because Brock is a big, bad monster. And, obviously he's going to ragdoll Cody around. And hopefully Cody, he does something cool and he beats Brock. And now this was another boss, not a final boss, but like a mini boss to get before Roman again.
Could you see Brock winning the first match, though?
I think it would be. It depends how they do it. I mean, they've done some crazy stuff that's worked in the end. But I think for Cody's sake, beating Brock would be a huge moment for him.
Where are we leading to, do you think? Are we headed towards Cody and Roman at SummerSlam? Is that where the peak of this storytelling for Cody, the finish the story, is that where it's going to happen? Because if it happens at SummerSlam, then we have Backlash and Money in the Bank, and that's all that's left until SummerSlam, I believe. I'll check the WWE schedule when after I get your answer here. But is that because what is Cody going to do at Money in the Bank if he beats Brock at Backlash?
That 1,000 days is something that they really want to hit, and they will. So you'll have Roman at whatever 1,000 and whatever days. But you know what? I
forgot about the King and Queen of the Ring show. That's another show that they're going to need some big matches
I don't think they'll do it. I don't think that'll be the match over there. I don't think they should. I think the moment should be here. I mean, the American flag everywhere, and he wins in Saudi Arabia. Just a weird visual there.
No, I don't think he should win it there either. Absolutely not. But I'm just thinking of if Roman isn't going to work a lot of these shows, and maybe Roman does work that show because they're going to pay WWE crazy amount per their agreement. But I'm just trying to think like how if we're stretching this out until SummerSlam, what are the matches for Cody on this redemption storyline that have like obviously one is Brock. Are we going
Brock,
to get
maybe Solo? You know, you have him maybe face Jey Uso. You put him in something with Jey. You could do some mini stories here and there.
I wonder if we're going to get that 6-man because it looks like the Backlash match is going to be a 6-man, but with Riddle in the Cody spot and Solo in the Roman spot. So I wonder if we do get some sort of tag match, maybe for Money in the Bank, where Cody finally does pin Roman heading into SummerSlam. That would be interesting.
Yeah. Or what if you do it on TV? You know? You got the pay-per-view money anyway. The thing that really matters is your viewership. Do it on SmackDown.
Cody and Roman.
Huge Cody
main
and
event
Roman
on
for the
SmackDown.
title on SmackDown, and Cody
3
wins.
million viewers. Could you get to 3 million?
Book
viewers?
a big building. Yeah, they could. They would probably do 3 million. Yeah, they did 2.5 with nothing. You know, they could do 3 million viewers. But
that show was a lot of nothing, by the way, which is
during a
so
contract
surprising.
year. You know, a contract year. You're negotiating. You sail. You want to show what's going on. You could do it on TV. I expect him to be champion by the end of the year. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. I think it'd be a detriment to their program if he's not. Whether or not you like Cody or not, you know, and this is not like me fanboying for Cody. It's just basic business. You want the babyface to have that title for a while. And Roman does need a break from this.
Here's a question
for
you.
Run.
I had this conversation with my buddy, and we were talking about the idea of Roman as the greatest WWE superstar of all time. Because it seems like WWE is very interested in controlling their history. And in this instance with Roman, they want him to be recognized as like, you know, along the same lines as Hogan and Bruno and John Cena and The Rock and Austin. They want him at this level. And the fan base has never, ever seen him at this level until maybe these last couple years, maybe this last year overall. Maybe you can talk the fan base into going like, okay, he's one of the best of all time. And so as I was thinking about that, I wonder if Roman winning at WrestleMania was really more along the lines of legacy versus business, in that it was really about making Roman, you know, and this 1,000 days thing that we're talking about, like they're trying to cement him as one of the GOATs in wrestling. And I don't know if it's necessarily needed. Like you could, you know, maybe that happens in a couple years as he gets a little older, and you can start, because that's when they started doing that with Cena, right? As he was getting to the end of his run, then you heard all the GOAT stuff.
Yeah.
It just feels like you didn't do that match with Cody and have Cody win. More so now, as I look back, because you want this legacy piece of Roman to kind of anoint him as like one of the all-time greats. That's what it feels like to me, you know, 10 days out of this or whatever it was.
So it is and it's not. And I asked about this because to me, you know, why did Cody lose, right? Why was he never intended to win? So there were multiple scenarios here. One, when I asked one person, they said, well, Roman was either facing Dwayne or Cody. And he wasn't going to lose to The Rock. So if one fell through, like it was still one plan. The plan was that Roman was going to win. If that Rock match had happened, nobody would have questioned Roman winning, keeping that title. The other thing is the marketing aspect and the analytics aspect, because some of this is not just based on storyline and what I want and what you want and what Kenny in our chat room wants. It's based on
Kenny Omega's in our chat room.
Kenny Omega. Oh no, Kenny Williams. Sorry, wrong Kenny.
Second greatest Kenny though.
Listen, Robert Dinkins in the chat room. Sometimes it's not about what Robert wants, right? It's they look at those analytics and they look at the merch sales and those T-shirt sales, and they think, well, do we really need to pull the plug on this? Another aspect is, how many new Mattel figures are coming out, right? With Roman as the champion, with Roman gear. How much new merchandise is coming out? These things play a part, and when you have a guy that is as good as Roman, that's moving the needle, and people aren't really sick of him, his reaction is as big as ever. Why do you want to pull the plug on him and do another Austin situation?
Mm-hmm.
I think these are all the variables that come into play here. The business side of WWE does have a part in what goes on TV. If you're moving merch and you're getting popular and that you're, the Twitter forecast thing and whatever they do, these are all indicators as to who's popular and who's not. And they listen to it now. It's not just Vince McMahon, what Vince wants or what Hunter wants. Sometimes it's about the business aspect of it. We're seeing some of this. And this is one of those moments.
By the way, the London arena is called the O2. I think you were getting it confused with Drake's independent label, October's very own OVO. I think that's what you were getting it confused.
No. The Wembley Arena. Wembley Arena is OVO.
Oh, is it OVO?
Yeah. Wembley Arena. OVO Arena.
Okay.
But there is an owl on that building. I don't know
you're
what's
right.
going on.
No, you're 100% right. The O2 is where WWE is running.
Yeah.
This is a different arena.
Yeah, this is in Wembley. This is the OVO Arena, Wembley.
There you go.
It's
all right. I thought that was Drake's arena.
Yeah. Started from the bottom. Now we're
here. So what? Okay, something. Very rarely does pro wrestling get in my feelings in any way, but I will say, Trish Stratus turning yesterday broke my heart.
How could
she turn on Becky? She's now a heel. The smiliest, happiest person. Yoga Trish. I love her Instagram. So positive. How could this woman turn heel in WWE? Now, obviously, I'm joking, but was there a tease? I guess my friend Paul Fontaine said on Raw, like he sort of saw maybe a side glance or something that Trish threw at Becky, like maybe Becky was hanging out with Lita too much, whatever it was. The turn just kind of like I wanted a little bit more storyline to it, where maybe they had a conflict at one point that they then cleared up, and then there's reason for Trish to be mad. But I don't know. The turn was just there. The fans didn't react to that match at all. Now, that they changed tag belts. Liv and Raquel are the women's tag champions.
When did they change the rules for tag teams that could put in anybody that's just affiliated with you?
Whenever it's necessary for storyline, I guess.
I mean, okay, whatever.
Lita, they just left her laying. Are we supposed to think that Trish is the one who beat up her good friend Lita?
I don't know. I thought that, but maybe not. Maybe this was just an opportunity. She was just sick of Becky, and she's like, "I'm going to kick you in the head."
Does Lita turn with
Puerto
Trish?
Rico, I'm guessing.
Trish against Becky?
I don't. Oh, does Lita turn against? I don't know. I'm interested in this. The other thing is that Puerto Rico match. I don't want to see Lita and Trish in Puerto Rico, because the last time that happened, it was a disaster. Trish blew out her knees.
Oh.
No, Lita blew out her knees.
Yeah.
Trish went for, it was something on the outside, and I guess when she fell, I guess she like did something to her knee, Lita, and it was terrible.
So the reason why I wonder if Lita is going to turn is because when Becky came in, and you remember when they brought Becky and Lita back together and they made the tag team, Lita said something like, or was it Becky? But one of them kind of reminded the fans that they had just feuded the year before, and Lita was just like, eh. And that line has sort of stuck with me, or at least that moment, because I can't remember the exact line. But the moment stuck with me, and I thought, if this Trish thing is really going to happen, because people have been saying that Trish was going to turn even before we knew that she was going to be at WrestleMania. That information was out there. I just kind of wondered, is Lita, because can you split up Team Bestie? Like, we're not going for a Trish versus Lita match, because that can't be the match. Lita is not the, and maybe some of it has to do with the injury that you're talking about, but she doesn't seem to be as athletic as she once was. And, she's older, obviously, but Trish is maybe a half a step slower, but she still looks like she's able to keep up. But I can't imagine they're going to do Trish and Lita. I kind of wonder if Lita's going to turn on Trish's side and it becomes, a tag team with Becky and somebody else.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Do they? I mean, how much does Trish want to continue doing this, and for how long? How's she feeling?
Maybe she's just in between seasons of that show that she's doing. What is the show? The Canadian version of the talent show, whatever that show is called.
Canada's Got Talent.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
you know what's amazing? I saw Trish's first ever appearance in WWE.
WWE New York?
No, she first appeared in 2000. I think it was October of 2000 at the Nassau Coliseum for SmackDown. And during commercial breaks, they would bring her out, and she was a cheerleader. And she would do this cheerleader gimmick, and she would insult everybody and tell everybody that they're really fat in the crowd. And they're disgusting. And she would come out like a cheerleader. And I could, when she debuted on TV, I was like, oh, that's the girl that did that. And I mean, you're going back 20 years ago. So like, she was 27 years old. That's how, I guess that was the original idea, that she was going to be like this like fit cheerleader that just insulted the crowd.
Yeah, and look at where she is 23 years later. She just turned on Becky Lynch. The cheerleader gimmick, very interesting. I don't remember that. But doesn't she also have a connection? We mentioned live audio wrestling. Didn't she also have a connection?
She was
to
a
that
co-host.
Show?
Yeah, she was a co-host. And I think the first year, she was a regular on there.
Full circle, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a host in 1999. Former co-host Dan the Mouth Lavransky
and Jason Agnew. And
John Pollock.
Jeff Merrick.
I don't remember Donnie Abreu or Chris Tidwell, but I remember all of the rest of those people that you mentioned.
So when I started listening, it was Jeff Merrick and Dan the Mouth Lavransky, and they would always have I think Jason Sensation would come on and do the voices regularly. And I found it on I think it was because of the Wrestling Observer, because Dave would plug it in the Observer that he would do the Wrestling Observer Extra on Sundays. And I would listen to IATA, and I would read the Observer, and I would read that he does this thing. And then on IATA, he would plug it. Brian would plug it, or he would plug it. And I discovered it. And they were one of the first, and we're going back to them. They were the first ever show, and this is why it was so successful. They were on demand, so they would stream it live on whatever they were on. They were on Mojo Radio at one point. It was like different state, it changes. Mm-hmm. They would stream it on there, but they always had it archived on demand the next morning. And I used to download it and listen to it at school or whatever. But that really, they were a podcast before podcasting was a thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was a way to hear Dave, right? Like, you could hear Dave on certain things, and you're like, oh, Dave's on this other show. I got to go find this other show and remember when Dave's on so I can hear Dave.
And he would go on late. He would go on at like 11 o'clock.
He was, I thought he still did a show like Sunday night. Like, he still did like a Sunday night hit. Maybe he doesn't do it anymore, but was there Saturday? There's like a Saturday night show.
Jason Agnew did Saturday night's main event.
Okay, that's what it was.
Okay, or Sunday night's main event, whatever it was. So I did that show a couple times, and I think he got like a different gig, and it just took too much time. And now he does a bunch of stuff in Canada. He's a TV guy, so great, just really unique story of that show. I found a bunch of hard drives here and CDs that say Howard Stern Show, and it's from 2001, and also / live audio wrestling. So I have it on CD here. I just found it. I'm clearing out if you look at my studio, like not in the shot, it's a disaster. But I found all of those, and I've been looking for it for a while. So I may upload it. I may put it on the internet somewhere.
Oh, wow. Crazy times. Old audio stuff when, you had to have like a DSL line to even really hear these shows without it being super choppy.
I had DSL in 97. 64K by 12.
Lucky. You're lucky, because I live in the Bay Area, and you would think that, we would have a lot of that, but I don't think I was able to finally. It took me, let's see, when did I move into my house? 2000, I think, until I really had a true DSL line was in like the year 2000. All right, enough about that stuff. Let's wrap up this show previewing a little bit of Dynamite. Though I just wanted to drop this on you because I just saw it. Dark Side of the Ring makes its return on Tuesday, May 30th. 10 episodes. The only thing that is in this article on F4W by Joseph Courier, Chris Candido and Sonny is one of the topics. Magnum TA, Abdullah the Butcher,
Okay,
and also Marty Jannetty. So
wow,
far,
I'm into all of this.
That is what we know.
Those are great.
Chris Candido and Sonny is really sad, though.
Very sad, because I know a bunch of people that know Chris Candido he's a North Jersey guy, right?
Yeah.
I believe that documentary, the bodybuilding steroid documentary, wasn't that guy connected to Candido? Like, he knew Candido's brother, or he was friends with Candido's brother, and he makes an appearance in the documentary. Bigger, faster.
Bigger, faster, stronger. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I for some reason, yeah, he went to Chris Candido's house, and it was like his childhood house, and he still had like all of his wrestling stuff there. Such a sad story. And Sonny too. I mean, I actually, it's really funny here, dude. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Now I got to do play-by-play. Andrew got up from his chair. The chair is spinning around.
My office. All right, look what I got.
It's awesome. She was.
Hold on, I got to put this on.
Isn't that wild? Now we're going back 25 years, but she was like everybody who was a wrestling fan had a crush on her. Like,
she was such a babe.
Yeah, so the male wrestling fans or the female wrestling fans, but everyone had a crush on Sonny.
I think I got.
All right, let's
centerfold in this issue.
Let's talk about what's going on with Dynamite. So Dynamite, not a lot on Dynamite here. So I didn't watch any of Rampage or Battle of the Belt, so some stuff may be created based off of those shows. But for Dynamite, as of now, this is an interesting card. Now, there's one match that I think should be absolutely fantastic, and that is Darby Allin versus Swerve Strickland. That match should be really, really good. And it should have some sort of significance to Darby Allin's chase to be the number one contender for MJF. Did you see any of the Nick Wayne stuff with Swerve Strickland?
Dude, yeah. I saw some of the clips. I think it's coming out on Thursday. Dude, I messaged somebody in AEW, and I said that we were talking about Nick Wayne. I was like, I hope this kid has such a successful run in professional wrestling. I hope everything works out the way it should for him. Because, Swerve and him had a great match. Swerve put him over big. He's the Defy champion now, Nick Wayne. What a great story, right? Considering who his dad is and, 17 years old. He's turning 18. He'll be on Dynamite on July 12th against Swerve. What a great debut.
Yeah.
Or what a way to debut.
Fantastic for him.
I should say.
It's my hope is that all of these locker rooms are very much created so that Nick has a very safe and not that you could actually take care of somebody. He's still a young kid, because I was thinking like, man, if my kid wanted to get into wrestling, like, this dude's not doing anything until he's like 22 and graduated college. Like, he's not going in a wrestling locker room. No way. But Nick grew up around the business. His pops, if you listen to early Figure 4, like Buddy Wayne and Brian Alvarez was like the greatest show of all time.
Listen, Buddy Wayne trained one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time, Chico Alvarez. So, I mean, but in all seriousness, I really hope they take care of him. He goes to school and he does the right thing. And this is, he grows into wrestling. He doesn't just become just a full-fledged professional wrestler. You need to fall back. You don't know where your career goes. But Tony, Tony's smart, and Tony, I'm sure, has set him up for that.
Yeah. Also on the show, the OG Keith Lee against Chris Jericho. I'm intrigued,
big time.
But I don't know what they're trying to set up here, because we saw Jericho with Adam Cole, so it's related to the Adam Cole thing. Keith Lee has a history with Adam Cole going back to NXT, so we'll see what's going on there. And Orange Cassidy against Buddy Matthews, and then this thing may be a massacre. Jon Moxley and Claudio against Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa. Is that match going to end up with obliteration of those two guys, and then Hangman comes out again and just gets beat up for the 75th straight time? Though Hangman's not connected to those guys, so maybe someone from the Elite comes out instead. But man, that was rough seeing Hangman just be like, "Oh, I'm not that smart of a babyface. I'm just gonna run in 1-on-4 and get killed. I'm
gonna run
again.
in and get my ass kicked. Yeah, nobody's gonna help me."
and then Bryan Danielson's gonna call me an amateur. He's gonna they're just gonna keep beating on me, and I'm gonna get hit in the forehead with a screwdriver, or in the eye with a screwdriver, and it's gonna be so painful that they're not even gonna show it, and there's no blood coming out, at least as far as anyone could tell. Man, I felt so bad for Hangman on that segment there.
Yeah. Listen, they got, like I said, they have a very interesting summer ahead of them, and I would say, the joke about Tony's announcements, not living up. I think some of these announcements are going to live up to what people want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're gearing up, and I think they know the importance of this year. They know the importance of this TV deal. Listen, Dynamite is always good. Have I maybe once I watched, or twice, maybe 3 times. I could count how many bad Dynamites they've had. So I think they just gotta keep at it. And by the way, Brian Cage re-signed.
Yep. I was surprised, but I don't know, unless he's sold on the idea of, ROH is going to be, maybe bigger than it currently is, because unless WWE just didn't want him as badly, because it seems like he's just tailor-made for WWE, but then again, he can't do all of his stuff if he wanted in WWE. More than likely,
he can't do a lot of the cool stuff.
But you figure,
what would they treat him as?
Okay,
so be a Ryback,
But think about this, like Keith Lee, like we just mentioned Keith Lee. Triple H, figured out Keith Lee, right? Like he had him pretty well figured out as far as what Keith Lee could be. Like Keith Lee was still able to do his, the stuff that made him impressive for being 350 pounds or whatever. He didn't do it maybe as often as he did on the indies, but he was allowed to do the big spot stuff. But then in AEW, I don't know, there's something missing with him. So I wonder if maybe, Triple H got a hold of Brian Cage, or maybe Shawn Michaels got a hold of Brian Cage. They would really, really figure him out, but that's not going to happen because he's
what I would do? This is how I would book him. Okay, Johnny Gargano comes out, right, and he's in the back, and he sees this smoke and green mist coming from the back where they hold all the metal pipes, and he sees this chemical, this green ooze, and he's and he looks at it and he's like, I gotta touch this thing. I gotta see what this thing does. And he goes and touches it, and he starts morphing. He starts morphing, and all of a sudden the camera pans out, and it's Brian Cage. He mutated like the ooze, like Super Shredder in Ninja Turtles, and it becomes Brian Cage. They're both Wolverine guys. They both love the X-Men. Why not?
Do you see the Ninja Turtles trailer?
No, I got
the new movie?
See it. I actually, I'm taking the kids to go see the Mario movie.
Okay, they'll enjoy it
right after this.
You will enjoy it too. If you had a relationship with the video games, you will enjoy the movie as well.
Excellent. By the way, you know how I said that this has a centerfold of Sunny?
Yes.
I was deeply disappointed by a centerfold of Lex Luger. I got this. I got beefy Lex Luger as my centerfold. So
torture rack.
Yeah, 16-year-old me was very upset by this, I'm sure.
I don't know, man. All right, so we are about at the end here. I wanted to make mention, next week I will be on vacation. I'm taking my wife and I are taking my stepkids to Disneyland. They've never been to Disneyland before. So, and I haven't been to Disneyland since all the new Star Wars stuff was created. So I'm really excited, but we're leaving Tuesday morning. So I'll be on the road during this time next week. So I think you and I, we just said we'll just go dark for a week and then we'll come back. So, so no show next week. Andrew can have a break as well, and people can call him and give him more information that he can't say yet. So, but yeah, so that's it from here. Thanks to everyone for checking us out live on YouTube and Twitch. And for those who listened on the podcast, for Andrew Zarian, I am Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.